Thank you for the reminder to pull up the faders, Ted. For goodness sake, you had one job to do. Pull up the fader. Let's start again with the introduction, shall we? It goes like this. Welcome once again to yet another what seems to be daily live stream event. Today we are dealing with one Nicholas Norwitz, not Nibbling Nick, him of the Keto CTA infamy, and one not really a doctor, Paul Salad I don't know. Talking about the Caroleys though. Caveats. Here we go. Here are the caveats. Number one, do I have a predetermined attitude towards these two individuals, their credibility, things they have had to say in the past? Yes. Yes, I do. Am I a fan of either of these young gentlemen? No. No, I am not. Do I think they're credible? No. Either one of them. Do I think they're competent? No, not remotely. Either one of them. Do I think either one of them should be making public videos talking to people about any aspect of diet or dietary science whatsoever? No, I don't. So is my attitude towards these two coloured before we even start? Yes. Yes, it is. So there you go. If that's going to trigger you because you might find these two gentlemen affable, pleasant or likeable in some way, you're in the wrong place. We're not here to do that. We're here to talk about the facts. And that's what I will do with the least amount of unnecessary, shall we say, stuff as possible. So I will attempt to remain solely with the facts, though. Second caveat, as usual, I have not watched this segment of this discussion through. This is a shortish video segment cut out of a longer discussion involving those two gentlemen already named, and I think he's called Danny Jones is the host, who may or may not be a good host. I don't really know. I haven't watched his stuff, so we'll see. Third caveat, as usual, I will be pausing this video often and in the middle of sentences to correct things that are wrong when they're wrong immediately, because I'm pathologically incapable of not doing so, it seems. If that triggers you, if you don't like that, if that's not your thing, once again, you are in the wrong place and should probably pop yourself directly to jail without passing go or collecting $200, pounds, squids, euros, or whatever. All right? Finally, I may or may not use choice language in this video. I'm kind of known for it. It's kind of like a hook thing. It's a bit of an act I do of pretending to be more visceral than I actually really am. And I think the best way to convey that is to use all sorts of words with 4 letters in them from time to time. So that may happen during this video, or it may not. If it does, and you don't like that sort of thing, well, that's not really my problem. Once again, you're in the wrong place if the risk of that is something that's a problem to you. Yeah, all right, so before we get kicked off, let's see who's in the house. The feral grandma was first. Good on you, Grandma. We love us some feral grandma up in here. ABK's in the house, just finished cleaning up the coop. Very good. Silence is not golden. Yes, sorry about that. That was Ted's fault for not pulling up the fader. He had one job to do, that and the other knob twiddlings. Goodness, Ted. You can't get the help. Speaking of which, if you want to help, either here in Pimbatia in person, you can, probably, so long as you're not a mad axe-wielding homicidal maniac or something. The way to approach that is you send me an email suggesting that you have an interest in coming to Pimbatia and staying with us here on farm, and doing some bits and bobs around the place, and we'll put you up and it'll be kind of cool, and we'll hang out after work and it'll be good, and every child will win a prize or something, I don't know, and we'll talk about it and decide whether you should or should not come and or when you can. Also, if you want to help around the channel, there is a position or several positions going for one or more co-hosts. My good friend Field Marshal DC of the Meat Militia has indicated an interest, and I shall probably take him up on that, and we'll do some stuff with DC at various times, maybe Q&A or something at some point if we ever get back to doing the Q&As, or maybe we'll just do reactions together, and he can temper my intemperance, perhaps. I don't know, because Dave's very chill, isn't he? Yeah, so the attributes that you would need to display to be someone that would be a good option for co-hosting would be that you have a personality of some kind, be that whatever it is, that you maybe have some kind of screen presence, that you maybe have one or two clues about what you're talking about. If you're not too hard to look at, that's probably a bonus too. Let's be honest, it's handy to have somebody on the channel that attracts others to the channel because they look good. Mainly at the moment it's Ted, isn't it, Ted?
Yes, I'm the most handsome one here.
You go down there and twiddle the knobs, Ted, for goodness sake. I don't know, you just can't get the help. All right, so there it is in terms of the introductory stuff. So I shall try and put my prejudice, if you like, to one side about nut-nibbling Nick Norwitz, whose credibility is self-flushed in the lavatory because of his involvement in the farcical, disastrous, dreadful CTA study. How to destroy your credibility in one simple step, Nick. Well done. You are finished, and you really actually ought to shut your channel down and withdraw from public life entirely and permanently. You have absolutely eviscerated yourself. You have ripped out your own guts and put them on the table in front of us in that ridiculous pseudoscientific piece of claptrappery that you've put together. So, yeah, unfortunately, that's the end of that. In terms of not really a doctor, Paul Sellard, I don't know, and I say not really a doctor. He is fully qualified as such. He's never practiced medicine. So calling yourself Dr. Paul Sellard, I don't know, MD, is disingenuous. Because an MD practices medicine, and Paul doesn't do that. Never has, not one day in his life. Secondly to that, Paul presents himself as someone who's remotely competent to comment on what the science says, though, despite the fact that if you're interested, you can look on my channel and see, I don't know, maybe half a dozen at least examples of me responding to videos made by Paul Sellard, I don't know, in the past, where he has fundamentally, utterly failed in the most destitute and abysmal fashion possible to actually get it right in terms of reading what the literature says, to the point of actually suggesting that a paper says something that is the exact opposite of what the paper actually does say. The actual words in it even. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with here. And as I say, I don't know much about Danny Jones, if that's what his name was. I think that's what it was, the host. But we'll find out more about that as we go along. This is a 12-minute and 16-second video put together by those three gentlemen, where this particular segment purports to be about the Carolies, though. Carolies in, Carolies out. So this will be interesting to see whether either one of these gets this remotely right or not, and I'll try and give credit where it's due if it's due, and if it's not, I shall say why it's not. How's that sound? Right, buckle up, motherfuckers. Let's get ready. Got your popcorn chicken? Your popcorn chicken, that is? Good. Before I hit play, though, let's acknowledge a couple of things that we need to acknowledge. Hugo has been a member for 15 months. Congratulations. Congratulations. While I like certain aspect of Nick Norwitz, yeah, that's what a lot of people say. He's pleasant, he's affable, people like him. But he's an idiot. I'm sorry. He is misusing the scientific method, yes, and creating false impressions, yes, such that high cholesterol might be an issue. Correct, it is not an issue, and Nick is not au fait with that, and he's giving leeway to ideologues. Yes, he's also producing excremental works of pseudoscience along with his mate Adrian and some clown called Dave who actually is a software engineer who should go and do that. And a bloke called Budoff who also has no credibility whatsoever, a senior author who hasn't even read the paper that they published. Patently. That was clear from the comments that he made about the paper. When he was asked about it, it was clear that he hadn't read it. Well done, Matthew. Well done. All right, and the other thing we need to acknowledge at this point is that Valerie Michelle became a YouTube member today, just now. Love it. Very good. That's a good way of supporting the channel. And just while that's been happening, the Fully Laden Swallow has coughed up $5 greenback dollars. Have I found a knob maintenance tech yet? No, I've still got Ted with me and he can't even pull a slider up. Absolutely fucking hopeless. Anyway, let's crack on and we'll acknowledge some other folks as we go along a bit. Right, I need to put on some headphones so I can hear what Nick Nubbling, you know what I mean, that guy. I need to hear what he's saying. Just like you guys need to hear what I'm saying. Oh, Ted. Welcome to fucking amateur hour. All right, let's go. Danny Jones,
I would go a step further and say calories don't cause obesity.
Okay, good, Nick. That's a great start. Yes, correct. Calories do not cause obesity. It's impossible. There is no physical way under the laws of physics that, as we understand them, that could possibly occur. Good. You probably should have stopped there, Nick. But I suspect you're going to say more that's going to get you back into trouble again straight away. Because you can't help yourself, can you?
I agree with you.
And
oh, good. Paul Sillard, I don't know, agrees on that, at least.
I want to unpack that a little bit because I know where people's minds go and they have a visceral reaction. But
like I have to you, Nick, on the basis of the damage that you have done, not only to your own credibility and to that of your co-authors, but also to the fraternity at large. Because you opened the door for ridiculous theologues without a leg to stand on. You gave them a platform, you gave them a leg to stand on, to have cracks at this community that others that don't know better might have found somewhat credible. And that's your fault, Nick. And I'm very, very unhappy with you. How's that?
I'm not saying calories don't matter. I'm not saying that.
Excuse me. There you go, straight away. You should have stopped after your first sentence. Calories do not cause obesity, period. End of discussion. Why this takes 12 minutes and 16 seconds, I don't know. But then I called it right, didn't I, kiddies, staff, ladies and gentlemen? The very next sentence, he then backpedals and says something fundamentally fucking stupid. Calories don't matter. I'm not saying calories don't matter. As regards your mass, or the balance of your mass, or your body composition, or any of those other things, Nick, calories don't matter. They do not have any impact whatever, which I will justify, excuse me, coffee, which I will justify as we go along. All right. My God. Incredible, Nick, by which I mean lacking in any credibility, son.
When you take the energy balance equation, calories in minus calories out equals weight change.
But that's false, because calories cannot change your weight. Calories, Nick, are manifest as photons, which have no rest mass. The value of anything, plus or minus any number of zeros, Nick, remains unchanged, does it not? We are done. Basic first principles, basic physics, Nick. There is no nuance here. These are the facts. Whether you like those facts or not, or whether anybody likes them or not, or whether they have a visceral reaction to someone like me saying that, it's still a fact. Calories are defined as that thing which is made manifest by the transfer of energy, if you like, via a force boson, a particular force boson, that being the photon, which, as we know, has no rest mass, ergo cannot change a person's weight. No matter how many of those you add, nor how many of them you remove. Oh, yes, but energy is fungible to all its different forms. Great. Do we have the machinery, Nick, to funge? I know that's not a real word. Do we have the machinery whereby we can encapsulate heat, energy, a specific form of energy, and use that for metabolic process? The answer, Nick, is no. We don't. If we could, food would be completely unnecessary. All we would need to do is sit in the sun or under a heat source of any kind. We could be breatharians, couldn't we? All right? This is really very simple. Really very simple indeed.
What is that? That is a post hoc description of what happened.
No, it isn't, Nicholas. That's false too, as well. Here's why. Remember we just said that the photon has no rest mass? One of the implications, one of the requirements that comes from that evolves directly from that, is several facts. Number one, the reason it has no rest mass is because it does not interact with the Higgs field. Ergo, it has no inertia. Mass is emergent from inertia. The fact that it does not react with that field is the reason it has no mass. It's not the other way around, by the way. What does that mean? What that means is that in any inertial frame of reference, it doesn't matter what your inertial frame of reference is, that photon cannot be brought to rest. Whatever your inertial frame of reference is, you will perceive that photon to be pissing off in whichever directions it's going, which is all directions at once because it's a wave as well as a particle, duality. But it does that at roughly 300,000 kilometers per second, irrespective of what you try and do to stop it doing that. You can't encapsulate a photon. They are emitted and absorbed. They exist, even though they don't because they have no mass, for a set interval in space-time between those 2 points, emission and absorption. Okay? Dear oh dear. So, the capacity to absorb calories, to take in calories, to consume calories, to eat calories is none. Ergo, calories are not a variable. They are a constant. And the value, the constant value of calorie intake by human beings from food is 0 at all times, at all places in the universe. Okay? This is really very simple once you understand some basic physics.
It's not in any way, shape, or form a biological explanation for obesity. So I'm not saying calories in, calories out is a wrong model for obesity. I'm saying...
But it is, Nick. It absolutely, fundamentally, demonstrably is incorrect. False to its very core. To the very first principles that purport to underpin it, false. This is not even equivocal. These are the facts. Still.
It's not a model at all.
That's right, it isn't. You got something right. Congratulations.
It doesn't give you a physiologic explanation.
You just said that, Nick, remember? Not 2 seconds ago.
And the...
Oh, Annabelle, be quiet. Bah, bah, bah. I don't know if you can hear that through the microphone or not, but oh, God. Annabelle's a sheep, by the way. If you didn't know that was my best impression of a sheep. Be quiet, Annabelle.
Narrative around calories, I think, is one of those things where with enough exposure, just the mere exposure effect, you start to internalize a message and then thinking gets shut down. Rather than thinking about the like complex multifactorial cascade of factors that goes in.
Okay, now you're just waffling, Nick. Now you're just saying a bunch of words to make yourself seem somewhat considered and intelligent, despite the fact that it's clear and patent that you do not have command of the basic first principles, the basic physics underpinning this particular argument, this epistemology. You don't know anything about this. It's clear. Ergo, you should not be speaking publicly about this topic. In the same way that you should not be publishing ridiculous anti-scientific claptrap and making out like that you've done some earth-shattering science.
Determining what is ultimately the dependent variable, not the independent variable, the dependent variable, calories.
No, it's not a variable, Nick. It's a constant. Its value is 0 as that relates to metabolic process in human beings. We do not encapsulate or use heat for metabolic work, and we have no machinery by which we can transmute heat energy into potential chemical energy for the same purpose. We're done. Still. Goodness gracious. La, la, la. Let's see what people are saying so far, just to, I don't know, break this up a bit. Nick is also an oxalate denier. Well, there you go. He got shitty with me about it and asked me to send sources. I did, and was completely ignored. Source! Source! Excellent, Snacksy Man. Finally managed to make a live. Welcome. Welcome to being live. Live is great. He's also stupid on seed oils. Yeah, well, that's another section from this discussion that I might respond to on another day too, because I've seen that one through. I have watched that one through. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. La, la, la. Nobody says, let's unpack that in real life people speech. Some people do. The omega-3 to omega-6 ratio is the most important aspect of what, Hugo? It is an important thing, but is it an important thing as to do with one's mass or the balance of that mass, one's body composition? And if so, how so? Causality does not equal importance. I know which video you've been watching. I know where you got that from very recently. What's the relevance of that statement to this discussion, I wonder? He's paid to say what he says. I doubt that. Who would pay this boy to be the front boy for their whatever? I certainly wouldn't, because he's got no credibility at all. None. Hello from SC. Is that Sacramento? I don't know. I'm guessing. The caloric theory of heat had been rejected. By whom? Why would any reputable physicist still talking about caloric? That's some good English. I'm not sure what your question is. Can somebody help? Will you be reacting to more clips from this interview? Yes, probably, including the seed oil bit. Yes. Ideology in, ideology out. Yes. Garbage in, garbage out. Yes. Poor standard of PhD and MD training in. Poor quality of noise coming out of the gobs of these boys. Yep. All perhaps parallel statements. I don't know. Yes, those pesky fattening photons. Yes, yes, indeed. Facts don't always get you paid, sadly. Tell me all about that. Fuck. Wow. I rely on you guys to make sure I get paid commensurate to the service I provide to the community. That's why the Q&A sessions are cancelled, because it didn't happen. All right. If you do want to make sure I get paid commensurate to the service provided to the community, you could actually take advantage of something that's actually good for you too, and it'd be a win-win, because I'm not here to take advantage of anybody or take the piss in any way, but I would like all of you, every single one of you watching this video, I would like all of you to be taking this product on a daily basis. It's called Stem Enhance Ultra. What does it do? It promotes your bone marrow to release your adult stem cells to your bloodstream, whereupon they do magics in terms of renewing and repairing your tissues throughout the body. Basically, the only thing these stem cells cannot do is become sperm or eggs, and that's probably a good thing. Anyway, there it is. While I've said I want all of you on that product, I actually don't necessarily want any of you paying for it. If you want to know how to get that product for free, well, send me an email. It's pretty simple. You join this business. It's one of those things that you can join as a member, like a multi-level thing. And if you set up 3 people who buy the product and pay retail for it as your own customers, then the company will give you yours for free to the same amount of product, basically. Terms and conditions apply, you know, all of that, blah, 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 blah. But it's pretty simple. A dog with a note in its mouth could do that, I think. So, yes, I want you taking that product. And also this one, which is an anti-inflammatory. It's called Cyactive. And this one too. This one's called Plasma Flow, which is a blood flow optimizer. I want you taking those 3 products, but I don't want any of you paying for it. There you go. How's that? And then the company pays me and you, respectively, for any volume that's generated. That's how these things work. It's a perfectly legitimate form of marketing. Instead of paying an advertiser and putting flash adverts around the place, they pay us to do the advertising word of mouth. And they'll pay you to do the same thing if you're prepared to do the same thing. It's really straightforward. Anyway, that's the bills paid, hopefully. Let's get back to some more commentary before we get back to the video a bit more. I'm sitting in the sun. My pants are absorbing caloric density. Very good. Yes, very good. People are too lazy to wrap their heads around the fact that calories has been a con, and they've got to change their way of thinking, so people will propagate falsehoods. Indeed, agreed. MIMO is a much preferred system, which is mass in, mass out. That is actually a correct and accurate post hoc description of what has happened, Nick. Nothing to do with units of heat energy. To look at the difference in one's mass over time, the correct formulation for what has happened, retrospectively, is how much mass came in and how much mass went out. I would have thought that would have been obvious for someone who purports to have some critical thinking skills, some accuracy of information, and some scientific nous, Nick. Nothing whatever to do with calories, still. All right? Very good. Very good. Let's carry on some, shall we?
It's easy to sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, I just did. Did you see how I did that? With some facts, basic physics and first principles. We're done with this, but there's still, what have we got? More than 11 minutes of it left. Because we still haven't heard from not really a Dr. Paul Salad I don't know yet. He'll be much better. No.
I try not to ascribe intention to these things. Maybe there is intention. I mean, there are incentive structures, but I like to frame it as incentive structures, as like...
Now that I use Monday service, AI makes solving
See, even the
tickets my
ads
form
are
of
sick of listening to
meditation.
the waffle.
Monday service is a...
You know, why is or isn't something getting talked about without implying an individual person is sinister, per se? A good example I'll bring up that really I found...
Now the ducks are going.
curious. It was this, I mentioned it to you earlier, the statins GLP-1 paper.
Oh, Jesus. Nick, this discussion is about calories, though. And you've said two things about calories, both of which were fundamentally incorrect. Sorry, three things, two of which were fundamentally incorrect and one which was, i.e. calories do not cause obesity. Your first statement, that was correct. That's where you should have stopped. And it seems you have stopped, because now what you've done is indulge in a bunch of waffle for a few minutes, and you've said nothing except incorrect things about calories, and then some kind of, I don't know even what that was, talking about how people view things or whatever. And now you're going to switch the topic completely to statins and GLP-1. Why don't we deal with the point at hand, Nicholas? Carolees, though.
So the two biggest drugs, probably in history, or to be the biggest drug is in history, are statins.
Mm-hmm.
I think, $1 trillion market over time, something like.
There you go, Richard Burgess. See, I didn't make it up. It's available in the literature, and you can go and check it out for yourself.
20
when did
billion.
statins first come?
That's very, very rude. Very rude. What Danny Jones just did there. I'm doing it because I'm responding to a video post hoc after the fact. But to jump on top of someone in the middle of what they're saying when they're an invited guest on your channel, supposedly as some kind of an expert, which they fucking aren't, either one of these boys, you don't jump on top of them like that. That's very, very bad hosting. Sorry about that, Danny.
On the market?
Ooh, I don't know. Mid 1900s, but probably.
Mid 1900s? That would be 1950, would it, Nick? No. It was about 1987 from memory.
Really?
Yeah, what was the first one? Was it
Steve, this might
low-statin?
be a Steve question.
I'm not sure.
Quick,
But
Dr. Google.
definitely one of the biggest, most prescribed drugs. I think 1 in 4 people over 40 are taking it for like
Really?
secondary. Yeah, something like that. So actually, that was in the paper. I can share the reference. But so anyway, this paper came out in Cell Metabolism last year. Now, let's be clear: Cell Metabolism is not a dinky journal. It's a highly regarded scientific.
Okay, so appeal to consensus fallacy. Highly regarded. Well, who gives a fuck, Nick? You're highly regarded. But you have no veracity, no credibility, no scientific nous, and you're dripping with Dunning-Kruger. All right, are we done with that?
Journal.
1987.
Statin, yeah.
And this was a human trial where they effectively showed that statins chop GLP-1 levels in humans in half.
Okay, what's
So, and was that cause and effect? Were there adequate controls undertaken?
GLP?
So GLP-1 is the hormone that drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy try to mimic. So now there's this huge drug market about not exactly biomimicking GLP-1 because they're given at super physiologic doses. That's true. But GLP-1 is a hormone that is depleted in a lot of metabolic health conditions. So, insulin resistance related conditions.
Oh my God. Nicholas, insulin resistance is a construct still. Please give me the name of a company that I can order an insulin resistance meter from today that they'll deliver to my house so that I can test my insulin resistance on a sample of my body fluids or whatever. Shall we wait for that? No, please educate yourself, Nicholas, or re-educate yourself adequately, and probably remain silent publicly until you've done so. How's that?
Diabetes, obesity, PCOS, etc. There tends to be a GLP-1 deficiency. Has to do with
How in the purple fuck has this got anything whatever to do with Carolees in, Carolees out, though?
inflammation in the gut, decreased GLP-1 production in the gut. So the hormones produced in the gut, it's called incretin hormone, and also just inflammation. Inflammatory cells in the gut have their own GLP-1 receptor, so they'll sop up the GLP-1 and make it more less bioavailable. So long story short, low GLP-1 levels are one of the markers for various metabolic diseases.
Markers, you say? We're very interested in markers, not. Stephen, me old China, good to see you, mate. Glad you're here. Thank you very much for the 9 squids 99p. Appreciate those, and so does Ted, don't you, Ted?
Yes! Yes, I do.
He said yes, yes I do. That's what he said. He appreciates the £9.99p as well, as do we all here, including Annabelle the sheep and all the ducks and all of that. Very good. I'll be talking to Coach Stephen on a live stream very soon, and I think it's the 13th UK time, the 14th my time, so that's not too far away, and we'll cover stuff and things, so we will. It'll be good. Can't wait for that. See you then, Stephen. Yes. Right, let's hear more about the Carolees in, Carolees out, though.
Right now, we're treating a lot of people with GLP-1 receptor agonists, which are effective for weight loss. And I'm not against these drugs. Let's be clear, I'm not. However,
So Ozempic is a receptor agonist.
So what Nicholas has just said is he is not against those GLP-1 focused drug classes. Fuck me, really? You're not against that, Nick? Let me go back to my original, or my last comment, I should say. Nick, you need to re-educate yourself, son. Seriously. Are you stoned? What have you been smoking, and can I get some? Goodness gracious.
for GLP-1, yeah.
Okay.
I find it interesting that there are human data in a prominent journal showing that statins, a very common drug, deplete levels of GLP-1, which is a hormone and related to a blockbuster group of drugs. It cuts the levels in half. Steve, if you can bring up, there was like, it'll be say statin GLP-1 is the image, or
Remember how this was a video about Carolees in, Carolees out, though? A facet that Nick has said 3 things about, one of which was correct and 2 of which were utterly fundamentally incorrect. Then there was some obfuscation and waffle about people's attitudes and how they see things, which had no bearing on the point at hand whatsoever. And then he's changed the topic completely to statins and GLP-1.
figure 1H. It's a blue line and a red line. Yeah, that one. So this was from a human trial, a 16-week human trial with, I think it was 20 mgs of atorvastatin versus control, if it's popping up. Those are the results.
Mm-hmm.
The red line's a statin. That's not so.
Okay, great. So what are those error bars denoting then, Nicholas? Are they standard errors? Are they standard deviations? Are they standard errors of the difference? What are they? Because it doesn't say there on this chart. Perhaps you'll tell us.
Subtle.
See, the thing is, if you don't know what the error bars denote, you have no gauge by which you can judge the veracity, the meaning, or the utility of whatever statistical differences have been noted. You'll also see that there's a data point missing from this series completely in the blue line. And they are interpolating what that value might have been on the basis of what the other 3 values were. That's inappropriate scientifically. It may not have been. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Don't know. There are asterisks there, which again probably denote statistical significance of the data sets, although that's also not here on the chart that's on the screen. So we have to just assume that's what they mean. And we have to assume probably that 2 asterisks mean p is less than 0.05, and probably 3 means p is less than 0.01. But we don't know that because this chart doesn't tell us that. Neither does it have a title, so we don't even know what it is. The label on the x-axis is weeks. Well, weeks of fucking what? And I assume, because it's obscured by Nicholas's imagery, the image of him there, I presume that says GLP-1 in picomoles. Picomoles per what? For goodness sake. See how poor this is? By way of scientific discipline? Really, really poor. Okay, Nick, spell it out for us. Even though it's got nothing whatever to do with the topic at hand. Nothing at all.
It's not subtle at all.
I'll tell you what's not subtle, Nick. Your Dunning-Kruger and your actual incompetence to talk about science, let alone to actually participate in science. We've seen your attempt at science, sunshine, haven't we? The Keto CTA paper, for one. The furthest thing from science I've seen in a long, long time. How's that?
And so
What is the blue line?
the blue line's the control group.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's a placebo-controlled trial, and basically it's showing, you know, statins chop GLP-1 levels in half. And this was
chop is not a word that scientists use, Nicholas. That's not a scientific way of describing what's going on or potentially going on.
was also associated with worse glycemic control, so an increase in average blood sugar, HbA1c, increase in insulin, and increase in insulin resistance, which are all
insulin resistance is still a construct, Nick.
Of known effects. But what bothers me about this graph is not the effect. I'm not concluding from this, no, you can't take statins, or you know, GLP-1s are, a hack. I'm just perturbed that this comes out about a year and a half ago in a major journal, and there is not only no headlines featuring it, which, statins cut GLP-1 levels in human by half, should be a headline. I bet you.
What was the sample size, Nick? Who were these subjects? What were the levels of control that were exerted? What was the level of observation exerted? Were they locked in laboratories to make sure that they complied with all aspects of the design? Did the authors of this paper adequately describe the limitations and inability of this paper to actually talk about cause and effect? All fair questions, I would have thought.
If you replace the word statin with steak, that would have been a headline everywhere. Do you agree?
Or butter.
I think there's selective reporting. And then not only is it not presented in the media, but physicians don't talk about it. After I read this paper the same day, I polled 12 doctors in the area to ask them about this relationship. None of them knew about it.
How many doctors spend much time searching through the academic literature, Nicholas, let alone have any competence to read it or understand what it says? There are two examples on this panel in this discussion of people who are medically qualified, one of whom is also an academic, Nick, who don't have that capacity, who do not have that competence patently. And one of them, you, Nicholas, is the one asking other doctors whether they've seen it. Am I the only one that thinks this is hilarious? It would be hilarious if it wasn't so serious, Nicholas.
And this was in the Harvard area, presumably some pretty well-educated people who are...
Oh, there we go. If ever you wanted to see it, there it is. People educated at Harvard are well educated, according to Nicholas. Oh my fucking God, are you stoned? Still? Have you not come down from your high yet? Ah, dear. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. £4.99 from Pops and Pedal, love it. I've got two questions. Well, you'll have to pay twice. Since ASCVD, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, is caused by damage to arteries, yes. Should people avoid cholesterol if artery is damaged? No. How do we know if it's damaged? Well, there are a lot of markers around the inflammation that will be attendant to significant arterial endothelial cell damage. There are also a number of scanning techniques that can infer that there has been a problem. And there are a number of appropriate and valid predictors of the likelihood that someone has cardiovascular disease likelihood. There's also a bunch of nonsense out there that won't predict it, that people suggest will, sadly. So what you do need is a bit of education around this, probably from someone like yours truly, who actually is competent and published in the area. All right, very good.
Or, why isn't this even in the realm of awareness? I don't think that physicians are hiding this information from people, but at the end of the day, if you're going to start a medication, you deserve to have some informed consent.
Right.
This is the kind of thing.
Did you hear that? That's another thing I actually do agree with Nick on, and credit to Nick for having said that. I wish every physician on the planet would apply that, and every politician on the planet would apply that. Informed consent is required before you administer anything to anybody. How's that? Which means you have to give them all the information and allow them to make their own choice. Without any undue inappropriate pressure, bullying, harassment, threat, or indeed actual punitive action should someone decide that they don't want to be a part of that. How's that?
Where it's like, I just think the patient should know in the decision-making process. It doesn't mean don't take either medication. Heck, if it works best for you, take both.
You should at
I'm
least
not
know
here to.
what's going.
Once again, jumping over the top of your guest, who for some reason you think to be some kind of expert that you've invited for their opinion, shut the fuck up and let him give it. Danny.
Going on.
This kind of information should be provided to patients, or at least be in the awareness of their physicians. Again, not saying anybody's sinister, but major paper, human trial, this is the result. Like, how is this not talked about? Oh, and I'll add, the mechanism they found.
Remember this was a video about calories in, calories out, though? Remember that?
Which is quite interesting, is that...
What I've really enjoyed so far is the input from not really a Dr. Paul Sellard I don't know, i.e. he's kept his mouth fucking shut. And that's what he should continue to do publicly, as should Nicholas, frankly. They should both shut their fucking mouths publicly, permanently.
The statin altered the gut microbiome and altered levels of a bacteria that generates what are called certain secondary bile acids. So primary bile acids can be metabolized by bacteria into secondary bile acids, and these have numerous effects throughout the body. So they get into circulation, they can impact the brain, muscles, fat, and one is called UDCA, and actually can be prescribed as a drug. And what they found in humans, again, is just giving back the UDCA basically reverse the effect.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is...
There you go. Literally.
So what I'm saying...
Literally anybody can build an app without knowing how to code. Literally anybody. Good. I'm glad he said the word literally, because that makes all the difference, doesn't it? Hello, Dave. How are you, mate? You're late. Again. For class. Report to Field Marshal Ted afterwards, down the back. You know what happens back there, don't you? Anyway, get back to your knob twiddling, Ted. Good lad. Down there. Good boy. Oh, we do like a bit of knob twiddling around Pimbatia, don't we, Dave? Still, what happens in Pimbatia stays in Pimbatia, doesn't it? Yes. Yes, it is a clown world, you're right.
Here is like, okay, there's a negative effect, and actually there's a solution that has been demonstrated in humans in a major journal. So you could...
Again, major journal. So what, Nick? Any scientifically rigorous, valid finding stands on its own. It does not need to be published in a journal that you, for some reason, believe to be better than another one. If a piece of work is up to scratch, it doesn't matter where it's published. It's up to scratch. This appeal to consensus, appeal to authority fallacy nonsense has to stop.
Use this in your patient population to improve care, maybe attenuate some of the negative effects of statins on GLP-1 and insulin resistance. But because we don't focus on metabolism and physiology, this gets entirely ignored.
Yeah, as should you be, frankly, Nicholas. Yeah, this is amazing and not surprising because this has been going on since 1962. People not being taught the Randall cycle in such things as, nutrition class. Fuck me, really? Wow. It's almost like they don't want you to know about it, Mark. For some reason. I can't think what that would be. Yeah.
And that's just one small example about how I think dysfunctional norms and incentive structures lead to worse care. Again,
there's a broader context here that I think we should talk about.
Oh, good. Tell us about the broader context. Not really a Dr. Paul Sellard I don't know, who is so very brave and so very robust. Look at the state of this boy. Wow. Fuck. Anyway, that aside... this is a boy that's so robust and so confident that he has to pretend, when asked directly about me, he has to pretend he doesn't know who I am. despite the fact that he and I have made several videos together in years gone by. So either there's something desperately wrong with your memory, not really a Dr. Paul Salad, I don't know, or there's something wrong with your ego. I wonder which it is. Or is it both? Wow! Whew! Seriously? Anyway, we can't sit here all day. Fuck! Right, Paul.
You mentioned this in the beginning with your Oreo experiment, but I'm not sure everyone knows the whole story. Your LDL went up quite...
Remember how this is a discussion about Carolees, though? Remember that, Paul?
high when you went keto. This is part of...
That happened to me too, yeah.
Right, this is part of common, not always, but commonly in human physiology. It happened to me a lot when I was strict carnivore.
Lean
I
mass
just interrupt you
hyperresponder.
for a sec. I was
Oh, fuck me. Lean mass hyperresponder is a construct as well. And it's one not even put together by someone with any training whatsoever in physiological science, or genetics, or phenotyping, or any of those related fields. It's an idea put together by some imbecile who's actually a software engineer and should shut the fuck up and go and do that. Frankly. That's for another day.
listening to your pod with Gary Brecka this morning, and
What's my problem with it? Despite my attitude towards the person who invented it, I'll tell you. It implies that there is a special group of humans for whom LDL is not problematic, whereas the implication there is that for everybody else it remains a problem. No, it isn't a problem. LDL plays no causal role whatever in atherosclerotic heart disease development. None. For anybody. We don't need a special phenotype that's pulled out of the asshole of some asshole. Frankly. How's that?
you said your LDL was 125, right?
So fucking what?
Now,
And he's like, oh, that's high. And you're like, yeah, that's high.
According to whom on the basis of what?
You know what mine is?
Mine's like 250.
well, I had mine was as high as 500.
Whoa.
574.
Yeah. So
This is my last.
Is this a pissing contest? Fuck. Keep slamming that fucking glucose and fructose though, Paul.
in the setting of
I'm not, but to be clear, I'm not saying this is fine for all people. I'm just,
But it is, though, Nick. It is fine.
Measuring our LDL levels.
we can talk about it later. It's now open information.
Yeah.
Actually, it was Mark Hyman and Andrew Huberman was talking about my cholesterol on one of his pods. I'm like, all right, this is how you introduced me to the world.
yeah.
But my cholesterol, we can
No,
talk.
you introduced yourself to the world, Nick. Remember? By participating in anti-scientific claptrap and publishing that as if it had anything to do with science, and in so doing, you opened the door and gave the ridiculous veganerized fucktards, our antithesists, a means by which to attack us. You provided that. You opened us up to what seems, to the uninitiated, untrained, great unwashed masses, the middle ground people that for whom the hearts and souls we're actually fighting for here, to try and save them, you've driven them away from us with your nonsense, your incompetence, your Dunning-Kruger, and your lack of good, prudent judgment, son. Remember that? That's our introduction to you. All right? Let's be clear on that.
Talk about it. There's more nuance there. I'm not. Well, let me stop interrupting you. We'll go back to it.
That's a good idea.
It's just interesting because in this context, and Nick has done a lot of research here, which is really interesting, and we should talk about it later in the
Spit it out, Paul, you imbecile. What have you got to say?
podcast. I think we've all experienced this sort of lean mass hyperresponder phenotype, and
No, it doesn't exist, Paul. It's a construct.
basically the idea, as I see it, and Nick can add context to this as he
Just spit it out, Paul, for fuck's sake.
sees fit, is that in some individuals, particularly individuals who are lean and fit, when you move over to fat-based metabolism in a ketogenic type context, there are more energy moving molecules in the blood, and that LDL actually moves triglycerides and cholesterol. And so it's not uncommon in human physiology to see LDL go up as a physiologic, perhaps not pathologic response.
It's never pathologic. LDL plays no role in human pathology. Still, you incompetent buffoon.
In a ketogenic diet. Whether or not this represents an increase in cardiovascular disease risk is
There are no studies, Paul, still, that can inform us on risk of any heart health outcome in human beings over any period of time as relates to any aspect of this particular field of endeavour. None at all still.
the main question.
Right.
And the central question here, which is something that I'm
Remember how Paul made a video suggesting that he read a paper that suggested to him that the HbA1c test is sensitive to glycation caused by fructose, and he pointed to a paper that he said proved that absolutely, despite the fact that that paper clearly said, in short English words that everybody can understand, that the exact opposite was true. Remember that? So why in the purple fuck would anybody listen to Not Really a Dr. Paul Salad? I don't know. You might as well go and put yourself on the same level of credibility as Not Really a PhD Mike Israel. Though he's got a PhD, it doesn't mean it's worth dick. We've seen it, haven't we? And now they're scrambling around in the background pretending like that was a draft. Have you seen that? Okay, well, if that was a draft, why was it published on the university's website as the final accepted thesis? And even if you did correct every single typographical cut and paste error and all this kind of nonsense in that thing, it's still a piece of shit. Mike Israel, you're a fucking joke. Have the good grace to pull your fucking head in, close down your fucking channel and disappear. How's that? And while you're at it, take Not Really a Dr. Paul Salad, I don't know, and nut-nibbling Nicholas Norwitz with you. For fuck's sake. Right, what's next?
thinking of as you're describing this paper and the response to it, or lack of response to it in the general sort of media space, is that ApoB and LDL, ApoB containing lipoproteins are, that's a broader term for LDL and other lipoproteins.
No, it fucking isn't, Paul, still.
Which are broadly felt to be atherogenic.
No, atherogenic is a buzz term. There are no studies that can inform us on atherogenicity of any of the lipoproteins in the plasma or elsewhere. The clear inference is that they are not involved whatsoever, actually. When you look at the actual facts, when you put together a deterministic model of the underpinning etiology of atherosclerotic disease burden, Paul.
These are sacrosanct in Western medicine, and anything that challenges.
Well, we've all seen the results of Western medicine, haven't we, kiddies? How good that's been for us. Awesome.
Challenges that hypothesis, this lipid hypothesis is just disregarded or is not felt to be valid and is kind of cast out to the side. So it's quite interesting because that's a very central theme. If we'll talk about seed oils in this podcast, and it comes back to that same.
Yeah, they will talk about seed oils, and I'll probably do a response to that on another day.
Idea in many ways. ApoB I see as like a linchpin in Western medicine, and having my LDL go up super high, and then
Super high, according to whom, on the basis of what? What kind of scientist uses the term super high? An incompetent one, Paul. Just give us the value, which you've done. That's an empirical statement of what was found, well, what was estimated from your blood plasma, because they don't even measure LDL, actually, sunshine.
having it, I had a similar response to Nick's. I mean, I eat carbohydrates now. I don't
Yeah,
eat.
we know, Paul. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fucking grams every day poured down your ridiculous fucking neck. How's that working out for you, Paul? Paul Salad, I don't know, is nearly 10 years younger than I am, by the way, for those that want to know.
Carbs, when you mentioned that you
Like fruit.
I eat fruit and honey,
Right.
and milk. So milk has lactose, but I don't do.
Thanks for that, Paul.
You're not eating bowls of cereal.
I don't eat bowls of cereal or rice or oats.
Oh, well, that's okay then, because different carbohydrates don't break down to the exact same fucking thing in the bloodstream, do they, Paul?
Or pasta, and
Wow.
there's different responses to different grains, perhaps based on their processing. So, and processed carbohydrates, processed sugars probably react differently in the human gut than fruits and fruit juice. But so I include carbohydrates in my diet now. I found for myself after a year and a half of long-term strict carnivore, so meat and
You did it wrong, Paul. Meat and organs, you did it wrong. Okay, that's why you had a problem. I've covered this multiple times in the past already. Of course, you pretend you've never heard that or don't know who I am. But we all know you do. And we all know you did it wrong and exactly how you did it wrong. You're about to say it right now. You're going to say meat and organs. That's what you did wrong.
organs and fat that my eczema got better, but my electrolytes did not stay within normal limits.
Jeez, I wonder why that was. Pouring in tons and tons and tons of unnecessary, toxic overburden, probably, would be my guesstimate, of copper from all that liver you were consuming, both fresh and freeze-dried because of your association with the very, very credible Liver King. Remember that? Fuck me, Paul. How it is that you are still regarded by anybody with more than 2 brain cells as remotely credible or worth listening to, beyond that point, I've got no fucking idea. None at all.
Right.
It turns out that there is a need for insulin signaling at the level of the kidney to resorb certain electrolyte molecules.
Yes.
And that a lot of people, not everyone, some people probably do better with long-term strict keto than others. I had massive electrolyte imbalances.
Yes, not a surprise based on your incorrect diet, your diet which was 100% carnivore, yes, but not an appropriate carnivore diet for a human being. You did it wrong, Paul. Okay.
That were resolved when I added carbohydrates back. My immune conditions did not come back with the addition of fruit and squash and honey. But I know that for me, if I include things like tomato, for instance, which is technically a fruit, but within this nightshade family, that I will get a recurrence of eczema. So some things...
Interesting.
I mean, this is what's interesting, and what I've kind of seen over the years is that for people who have autoimmune conditions, inflammatory bowel diseases, eczema, skin conditions, psoriasis, there are some foods...
Remember how this was a video about calories in, calories out, though? That's the title of the video. The segment is about... It says, calories don't cause obesity. Why doctors are wrong about diets with Nick Norwitz and Paul Salad, I don't know. At the very beginning of this video, in the first less than a minute, nut-nibbling Nick Norwitz made 3 statements about the calories, though, one of which was correct, and 2 of which were fundamentally incorrect, and then he switched up to start talking about completely another topic.
that are widely considered to be healthy that can be triggered.
Another topic that neither one of these boys knows the first fucking thing about.
For some people, and that's just that's something that I was never taught in medical school, and it's probably not something that everyone needs to worry about, but if people have unresolved autoimmune conditions, it's something to be aware of. More broadly, I think the LDL conversation is that in Nick's case, and again, I'll let him add context here if I'm leaving anything out, and in my case also, strict keto leads to a lean mass hyperresponder, quote, rise in LDL.
Yeah, again, it still doesn't exist. It's still a construct. It's still put together by a software engineer with no training whatsoever in physiological science.
We can talk about...
Or genetics or anything similar.
Cardiovascular implications for that later in the podcast. But the addition of carbohydrates, whether it's fruit and honey and squash or Oreos, then changes your physiology. You're no longer in ketosis and the LDL can come down. So that just so people understand that, that's probably what...
But now you're implying that the LDL coming down is a good thing, Paul? I'm not sure that you are, but people might take that from what you've just said. It's not a good thing.
happened to Nick with his Oreos in the beginning, which is this really sort of viral illustration of the fact that you can lower LDL.
Also, Nick's n equals 1 with the Oreos and the LDL response thing. The mechanism is clear. We understand why a person's LDL will drop when you change your diet away from the intake of lipids. We get that. It's obvious. And we can expect with almost certainty that humans would universally respond in a similar fashion at large. That right there is the reason that we can absolutely dismiss the Mendelian randomization so-called studies. I'll tell you why. Those studies gather a bunch of people with various SNPs that are generally associated with lower levels of LDL throughout the lifespan. Then they look at the incidence of cardiovascular heart disease in such populations over whole lifespan periods of time, without any control or observation of any kind, actually, to look at any of the covariates, confounds, and collinearities whatsoever. So it's a joke from its very foundation. But here's the kicker. Those people in those Mendelian groups, those SNP groups, not one of those people ever have their cholesterol tested as part of that study, not even once. They just assume that they know what these people's LDLs are on the basis of what SNPs they've got, which asserts that the genes are the sole determinant of one's LDL level throughout the lifespan and that it's invariant to anything. Well, Nick's just shown that it's not. Are we done? Of course, the only way around that is imbeciles, boys with high school diplomas, sure, boys that can bench press 415 pounds, but boys with no training, no skills, no qualification, whatever, will come online and argue, yes, they did, yes, they did, yes, they did, yes, they did, when repeatedly told by someone like myself who actually has read it and does know what they did, that they didn't measure. Yes, they did. No, they didn't, Richard. Yes, they did. No, they fucking didn't. Still. Yes, they did. No, Richard, they didn't. Remember that? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Yeah. Mark wants to know who is Sarah Zaldivar. Sarah Zaldivar is I believe, an associate professor or a professor of something to do with something in health that I don't think is employed in academia anymore. Not that that's a bad thing. It's a good thing to be out of academia. I don't think she has any background in actually publishing research of any kind. I think she was one of these teaching academics. She's also a person with opinions. Goodness, that's not necessarily a bad thing either, except a lot of her opinions are wrong. That's who Sarah Zaldivar is. All right. She's also not too hard to look at. Right, that's for another day though. Right, what's next?
Just by changing your macronutrient ratios.
Well, there we go. That was all about the Carolees though. Remember how this was all about the Carolees? The Carolees in, Carolees out. My God. Seriously? People wonder why I get so pissed off. Well, there it is in a nutshell, folks. A couple of incompetent buffoons, little boys in short pants academically, making out like they're competent to speak on such complex matters as science. One of them with both an MD's degree and a PhD, but no ability to do science, nor even stay on the fucking topic of discussion for more than 3 seconds and say 3 things about that topic and get 2 of them wrong. And the other one, who is an MD, who is also qualified as a psychiatrist, but hasn't practiced a single day in his life and can't read a scientific paper and can't even determine any facts from said papers because he's completely incompetent to read them. Both of those individuals with much larger subscriber numbers than I've got because they're pleasant, affable, and people like them. Oh well, am I wasting my time here, kids? Do I just need to go and do something else with my life? Is there any value in what I'm doing here? because YouTube doesn't think so. Anyways, I've got farming to do. So I'm going to go and do farming. But before I do that, let's just have a bit of a chat amongst ourselves and then we can sing the song, because we've got to sing the song, don't we? Right. Yes, people do like to validate their sugar cravings. They do. Yes. I love it. The Monty Python. Is this the right room for an argument? I told you once. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. Yes, this is the argument room. I'm not wasting my time. Okay. Good. Thanks for the feedback. Am I getting through to anybody? I know I'm getting through to you folks who are here. How many of you have brought other people here? Oh no, we couldn't do that because I'm abrasive and swear. I mean, the other thing I can do is stop swearing and stop being abrasive, and then nobody fucking watches. Nobody. So I think, you know, it's time to have a think about things, isn't it? What do we want? How do we want it? Anyway, there it is. Gabriel loves me. Yay. Love you too. There's nothing you can do about it. Somebody needs to respond to these nutsos. What have I just been fucking doing? Love you as well. Still nothing you can do about it, but goodness gracious. Let's go back a bit. Yeah. Pathetic excuse. That's talking about the Mike Israel thing. Oh, that wasn't the final copy. Well, look, even if that's true, which it fucking isn't, it was the final thing that they did pass. It was on their database as the final published thesis that could be downloaded and viewed by anybody. Even if it was the wrong draft, that says very, very serious things about the quality control of that institution, doesn't it? So either way, they're fucked. And now they're beating their chests and threatening legal action against the person who quite rightly downloaded it and said, look at this piece of shit. It's not slander. He downloaded the thing from their website and said, well, let's look at it, and pointed to the facts. How you can get, you know, legal action, they're just trying to scare him, basically. Anyway, I've contacted that person who I share some views with and who I disagree with on other things as well, including some of the people he chooses to keep company with who I think are fucking imbeciles, but that's for another day. I've invited that person to do a collaborative video about the Carolees, though. Maybe we'll actually talk about the Carolees during that video, perhaps. Yes, it is, absolutely, Dave. It is a clown world. Yes, Paul Salad, I don't know. No, he doesn't, does he? Clearly. Ah, dear. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, that's the state of the economy here in Pimbatia. I hope you've enjoyed being with me for this 1 hour, 12 minutes and 41 seconds so far. And if you weren't here for the whole time, rewind to the beginning and start again. And then when you finish watching it, rewind to the beginning and start again. Because this was fucking gold, this one. Absolute gold. Yeah. Okay, let's sing the song and then I can go and do farming. And the song goes a little bit something like this. Steak and eggs and steak. That's what you should have for your breakfast, Ted. Delicious. Eggs and steak and eggs. Just making sure you heard Ted. I got it. He got it. Good. All right, you twiddle the knobs and hit the end button, and the rest of you, well, you know how it goes. See you next time when someone else will be wrong on interwebs.